Hi, friends. I'm Father Kerry Walters, pastor of Holy Spirit American National Catholic Church, and this is another Holy Spirit moment. This one with a few thoughts on reverence. Normally, when we hear the word reverence or its verb cognate to revere, what we have in mind is a religious disposition or mood or feeling or response. We feel reverence in response to the sacred or the holy. I don't think that that's wrong at all, but I do think that the word reverence has a wider parameter than the one that we normally associate with it. That in point of fact, reverence is an attitude which is appropriate to responding to reality as a whole, not just to holy objects or holy events or sacred spaces. Or perhaps I can put it this way. All of reality is holy. There is a sacred dimension that runs through every moment of our existence, and as a consequence, reverence is always appropriate. So, how can we understand reverence? How can we define this attitude, which seems to be so important to religions, but also, again, I want to suggest is important as a basic response to existence itself? Well, I think that the Catholic philosopher of the 20th century, Dietrich von Hildebrand, offers us a really good insight into the meaning of reverence. Hildebrand wants to say that reverence is a basic openness to that which is valuable, that it is an appropriate response to something which is objectively of value. And the word objective is important there. Otherwise, reverence becomes nothing more than a subjective mood that can be experienced in any number of outlandish and really quite inappropriate situations. When we experience reverence, then, what we allow the object of our reverence to do is to reveal itself to us, to unfold before us, as Hildebrand says, all of its richness, all of its value. We simply await on it. We don't try to force it. We don't use it as a utensil. We don't make a tool out of it. We don't see it as a resource that can be manipulated by us. We simply allow it to reveal itself to us. And we do so out of a sense of awe and mystery and wonderment and deep, deep appreciation. That's what it is to feel reverence for something, according to Hildebrand. There are two kinds of human responses which stand in the way of reverence. On the one hand, Hildebrand says, pride can encourage us to look at everything with a kind of disdainful, arrogant, and blind way. We think that we're above everything, and so as a consequence, we don't feel any mystery or any wonder in anything that we encounter. And because ultimately, we're more important than everything else that is. So pride can be an obstacle to genuine reverence. On the other hand, concupiscence can be an obstacle as well. When we hear the word concupiscence, we normally think of some sort of sexual malfeasance, but of course concupiscence means much more than that. Concupiscence is the desire for satisfaction, subjective, personal satisfaction. And if we allow concupiscence to get in the way of reverence, then what happens is that everything that we encounter, we see only as a means to giving us some kind of pleasure. We're not interested in any wonderment about it or any awe. We simply want to be satiated by it. And so we don't allow what we encounter to fully unveil itself or reveal itself to us. Now, von Hildebrand wants to say that all of existence, the sheer presence of being, is something that ought to inspire wonderment and awe within us. And that the more we approach being itself with a sense of reverence, the more the beauty and the truth and the goodness of being itself reveals to us. In an interesting sort of way, although he doesn't cite either one of them, what Hildebrand is doing is relying upon a 14th century mystic and a German philosopher who actually was a contemporary of Hildebrand's. The 14th century mystic is Meister Eckhart, and the 20th century philosopher who was Hildebrand's contemporary is Martin Heidegger. Both of them use the same word to describe this sense of reverence that Hildebrand is talking about. The German word is Gelassenheit. Gelassenheit. It can be translated as releasement, although that doesn't fully capture what both Meister Eckhart and Martin Heidegger mean by the word. Meister Eckhart said that if one really wants to somehow stand in the presence of the divine, what one has to do is to enter into a state of non-willing. One has to somehow expunge from oneself all of our desires, all of our fears, all of our grasping, all of our ambition to stand nakedly before being so that the God that created being can appear to us, can reveal God's self to us. That, for Meister Eckhart, this releasement, this Gelassenheit, is a necessary condition for reverence. Otherwise, we get in the way. Otherwise, either through pride or concupiscence, to go back to Hildebrand, we separate ourselves from the wonder of everything that is. Martin Heidegger picks up where Meister Eckhart leaves off, it seems to me. And what he says is that Gelassenheit means making oneself available to whatever is, making oneself present to whatever is. But of course, in order to be present to something, what we have to do is get out of our own way once again. So there's a great deal of similarity between what Eckhart and Heidegger are saying, even though they use a kind of different idiom and they have different purposes, I believe, in making much the same point. Heideggerian scholars tell us that this making oneself available to being that Heidegger is talking about, this essence of Gelassenheit, can be thought of as the process of letting be. Letting be. In English, when we use the idiomatic expression to let be, we usually mean back off. Don't bother me. Don't interfere with me. Let me be. Let me alone. Well, some of that is captured in the expression letting be. When we reverence reality, when we reverence being, or when we stand in awe and appreciation before another human being, and certainly when we stand before God in awe and appreciation and humility, once again, what we allow to happen is an unfolding, an unveiling. We let that which we are present to be. Instead of trying to force it into a preconceived mold of ours, instead of trying to manipulate it, instead of trying to somehow use it to our end, we let it be. And in letting it be, it reveals itself more fully. And in doing so, it can't but encourage responses of reverence on our part. The whole fabric of reality, then, according to Meister Eckhart, according to Martin Heidegger, according to Dietrich von Hildebrand, is if approached in a proper way, if one makes oneself fully present to it, is that which cannot but inspire reverence. In our busy, hustling and bustling world, in which all of us are clamoring for satisfaction, personal satisfaction, in which we tend increasingly to see all of reality as nothing more than raw material for us to manipulate and to force into our own bidding, this notion of reverence is so important to recapture and to claim as our own. Otherwise, I fear the universe in which you and I live will become increasingly disenchanted, and you and I will become, much to our detriment, increasingly irreverent. I'm Father Kerry Walters, and this has been another Holy Spirit moment. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time.